Stalwart is a map pack for Black Mesa that challenges you to escape from a dangerous maintenance area of the Black Mesa facility. The map was originally made for the Hardville contest run on Run Think Shoot Live back in 2016. However, in 2019, the developers went back and expanded the gameplay, and more recently, at the end of 2020, they went back again and polished everything up and have now released the definitive edition of Stalwart. The map starts off by dumping you in a sewer area, armed with only a crowbar, where you are slowly reintroduced to all the various aliens and zombies and the weapons of Black Mesa. There's an off-screen scripted battle that gives you a brief hint of what's to come. It's a nice touch, and I'd strangely say I actually like the fact that you can't see the battle taking place. It lets you know the area is hostile, but doesn't give you an idea of the enemy's strength or their numbers on either side. Despite starting in some dingy sewer, it's a great start to the pack, and it slowly gives you a chance to refamiliarise yourself with the game. More importantly, it doesn't outstay its welcome. But it was a little hard to navigate. There weren't a lot of indicators to show you where to go, but thankfully being only a small area, it's not a major problem. The worst part of this location was definitely the jumping puzzle. Again, it wasn't that hard or that poorly executed, but it was quite frustrating thinking you'd lined up a jump only to find you'd misjudged where the edge of the ledge was. There's another part that's quite glitchy near the end of this section too. After coming out of a small control room, a Vought spawns in. He's supposed to be part of a scripted sequence, where he's killed by a sudden electrical blast. However, due to the fact that it's all quite slow to play out, you can actually get killed without warning during this sequence. There's no real way to know when the explosion is coming, and it would be better to put the trigger further away from the scene. We then arrive where the map started in the original version of Stalwart. The classic avoid the electrical water puzzle is the first major component of the next area. This is pretty standard stuff, and it's not that challenging really. The only real challenge comes from Black Mesa's rather floaty movement, which can easily screw you over if you're not paying attention. Despite being on constant patrol, I somehow missed the vent in the next area. The map makers have done an outstanding job of making the corridors connecting the various set pieces together feel unique and interesting. The combat is well paced in these areas, and nothing ever feels unfair. There's a fantastic little scripted sequence where a Vought approaches you when you are looking through the door, only to teleport away immediately, signalling you could get ambushed at any second. It's the little touches like this that I really appreciate. Despite the first map all taking place in the same maintenance area, there's a really good variety of play spaces, from vents to rafters to offices and generator rooms. You never feel like you're walking through what's essentially a bunch of linear rooms decorated with the same textures. In this regard, the level design really shines. When you come to the end of this area, you are greeted with an obvious combat arena. This is the room you've seen the HECU and the aliens battle over throughout your time exploring the facility so far. And when you get there, as with all combat arenas, you get a chance to restock and heal up before you press the elevator button and all hell is let loose.
Biological forms detected in maintenance area.
Stalwart's combat arenas are without doubt the best part of the mod, and because enemies are spawned in waves, they make far better use of the space than the fights in the official Black Mesa. Once the fight is over, the elevator opens and the mod would end if you were playing the original. After the elevator sequence, you are taken to a storage facility where you are immediately greeted with your next objective: clear out the Marines and rescue the security guards and the two scientists. The next map takes place in a cleverly designed area. Two large open spaces with smaller corridors, rooms and arenas off to the sides. It's a clever use of space, but, as before, I did find it a little tricky to navigate. It's not tricky enough to stop you playing and force you to go looking up a walkthrough on YouTube, but the initial areas do lack those classic Valve lighting clues, which, if you're like me, you instinctively start to look for. Like in the previous section, there's a good level of variety on offer. All the parts of the map follow a similar theme, but each room feels unique from the last. They've even included a short section where you need to avoid the trip mines like in the original Black Mesa. However, thankfully this section's pretty short, and I didn't feel like it was a chore. In fact, I quite enjoyed it, even if it was a little easy. Combat with the Marines can feel a little clunky in these areas. My aim wasn't great on my first playthrough, but even with the poor aim, I still found a lot of my shots were being blocked by the various railings and catwalks. This was only a real issue with the first encounter though. That being said, in other ways, the combat on this particular map is some of the most well thought out in a Black Mesa custom campaign. The developers have managed to find a way to make combat with a satchel charge and trip mines feel meaningful. Whilst this is nothing groundbreaking, After their introduction, you're given plenty of time to set up traps to stop the advancing soldiers, in a similar fashion to how turrets and hoppers were used in the Half-Life 2 games. Again, it's nothing major, but it's nice to see the developers including ways for us to put these weapons to good use. This particular section had a really nice sense of progression as you made your way through each floor and up towards the final battle. You make your way towards the button to free the scientists when... Like the previous map's finale, the final battle makes use of a decently sized arena, waves of enemies, and when the music hits you just can't help but smile. These particular combat sequences are just so well designed and fun to experience. It feels like it's over a little too quickly though. I'd love to have had another wave of marines or aliens, or even both together. Once you restore the power and rescue the scientists, you can make your way to the exit. It's a nice little sequence and it closes the mod nicely. I never played the original, but being an entry for what was originally supposed to be the hard film mapping contest, Stalwart certainly lives up to its legacy of being a challenging map. It's not quite as challenging as it could be, but it feels on par with Black Mesa at the peak of the conflict between the aliens and the Marines. Perhaps I was just having a bad day, but playing through the map I constantly found myself on low health. You were never, at least in the beginning, overwhelmed with ammo either. To be fair, this was a pleasant surprise. Half-Life's always been at its best when each conflict leaves you scouring every crate in sight for another slither of health. Understandably, the map is balanced around players not finding all the secret items. By the end of the game, I was loaded with shotgun shells and SMG ammo. It's not that bad, as that's often how Half-Life games go, but I did enjoy my time in the first section when I was constantly down to my last few bullets in my Glock. Whilst the map is quite challenging at times, the AI's pathfinding was rather buggy too. There were plenty of points where the Vortigons would be facing the wrong way, or be fixated on certain pieces of scenery posing zero threat to the player. As with a lot of custom maps, it's hard to find some good ones, but if you enjoyed Black Mesa, and especially the surface tension chapters, then Stalwart's certainly worth your time. It's not going to change the world, but for a short little campaign, it's fantastic, and it really gives you that feeling of being back in the game again. It feels like something official. It's not, obviously, but it could easily be slotted into any part of Half-Life or Black Mesa, and you wouldn't even bat an eyelid. And for what is basically a short little 30-minute campaign, you can't go wrong. Thanks for checking out today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content.